hey, and welcome to the next part of the Engage project. Gosh, where to begin? Okay, well, is this part 6 or part 7? I can't really remember. I get confused. I get totally confused. As you can see, we've got a model railway mecha here. It's just a modelling. It's modelling central, basically. There's just so much going on, which is why it looks so hectic. But you'll notice that there's something new. Oh yes, we've got a little soldering iron. And look! Ta-da! The wiring has started. That was basically the next part, wasn't it? That's the next step. Now, this entire Engage project is being done by both me and Craig for the benefit of me and Craig, because as you know, it sweeps right over here, round here, and yeah, ignore the chocolate Easter egg there, and deposits sweets from one side of the room and onto one side of the room and takes them back round to the other. But so far I've done all the work. Yeah, it's been me. I've laid the track, I've sorted out all the bridge, I've built the ramps. There's our bridge just there, and you can see that there's wiring on that too now. But that brings me on to Craig, because he's been working very, very hard behind the scenes this past week to basically get half of the bridge wired up. So if we zoom in really close now, there we go, you can see that because it's a loop, basically the two rails that form the insides, so this one and then this one, they're the same polarity. Because if you can think about it, if you can visualize it in your head, like pretend that it was a tiny loop, and what's here comes around and then goes around in a loop and then right around and then back up there. See, so it's the same. So both of those are basically pulled off and then transferred to this connector here. And then of course this one is pulled off and transferred to that, and that one's pulled off and transferred to that. So in essence what you've got is like a negative and then two positives, okay? And that's the same whether it's DC or DCC, because as I say, we're planning to make it all DCC in the future, so it doesn't make any difference. Well, it shouldn't do, but we'll see. So yeah, that's what he's been doing, and that's why we have the soldering iron here, because he has been working very, very hard soldering tiny little bits of wire onto the rails, as you can see just there, pulling the power from those rails and then transferring it to these connectors, these transfer plates. And I've got to tell you, it works very well, because it transfers it to the receiving plates on the end of the bridge just here. There we go. And then basically wires, which again are soldered to the base of these plates, transfer the power back to the track where it's supposed to go. And it works. It works brilliantly. I'll just put the camcorder to one side and then I'll show you that. Okay, so the bridge has been put into place, as you can see, just there. We've made sure that this side's all nicely lined up, but as you can see, there's no wiring on that side yet. There's no wiring in the middle just yet. But look, so if I just move it to the left ever so slightly until the black lines line up like that, there we go. That's basically all there is to it. Yeah, that's it. Sorry. And then all you have to do is just simply rotate that round until it touches that one. I'm going to have to hold the camcorder with my other hand now. And then I rotate this one round so that it touches that one. And then I rotate this one round until it touches that one. Okay? And that's it. It's as simple as that. It's now transferring power onto the bridge, but only up to this section here, only up to the middle section. And I've written window on there to just let me know that this top side of the bridge goes by the window. Okay? So it's not exactly the prettiest looking thing, but it's just for fun, isn't it? It's just an office layout, it doesn't matter. But the important thing is it works, and it works very, very well. So, because it works so well, we're going to show you how to do one for the other side, basically, because exactly the same thing needs to happen over here. And we even need to do something fancy about the join in the middle. This is the bit where the bridge flexes, as you can see. That's like the elbow joint, isn't it, basically? That's like your elbow. So we need to put some wiring and soldering there as well. Now, I need to talk to you about traction ever so briefly. Some of you may have already noticed, I hope the eagle-eyed of you have noticed ever since the beginning, that the traction has been here ever since the beginning. Before the entire Engage project was started, a Class 58 in coal sector livery was purchased along with a rake of HAA hoppers, as you can see just there. And this little Class 58 has finally been able to get out onto the tracks and have a little bit of a run. And everything is plugged in and wired up at the moment as well. So we've got power going to the Batman controller just here, and I can prove it by basically selecting a direction and then zooming in for you on the Class 58 over there. And if you just watch, see, there we go. And zoom out again. So that Class 58 should even be able to traverse the bridge pretty well. What can I do? What can I do? I tell you what, I'm going to set the camcorder up on a little tripod, and then I'm going to go over to the controller and then give it a little bit of a drive, get it onto the bridge and show you just how good the connection there is. Okay, so I'm back. I've actually put the camcorder on top of a huge tripod, just here, because with all the model railway mecha kind of stuff, I just couldn't get a very good angle. So it should still work though, and it should both test the smoothness of the flow from one rail to the other, as well as the conductivity of electricity. So let's hope that it works. It should do. Here we go. Here comes the Class 58. Okay, and we're back. This is why we don't do live TV. It's working again. Look, let me just prove it. See, there goes the Class 58. Beautifully over the join. Bring it to a stop. Reverse direction. And just look at that. Now, you've got to admit, that's good. That's good. But why? Why did it stop in the first place? Because basically these connections here can be a little bit dodgy, they can be a little bit iffy, and the reason for that is because, well, the whole thing is temporary, isn't it? Nothing can be permanent. That's been the biggest challenge with this layout. Everything has to be removable. If it was decided that tomorrow these desks are being put up for sale, everything's got to be pulled off and the desk has got to be perfect and everything's got to be as if it was never here. Because of that, things are a little bit dodgy at times, a little bit iffy. If this was a proper layout, if this was the proper layout, if this was a serious exhibition layout or anything like that, then this would be done differently. That we would be able to screw into things properly, to tighten things up properly, the cables would be run underneath the desk, there'd be loads more soldering, it would be much more reliable and much more stable basically. But because it's all just so temporary, and you've got to bear in mind this bridge has 3 sections because it's foldable. Basically, every now and again these connectors don't quite connect as well as they should do, but they're pretty good. They've been given a tightening up and they seem okay now. As I say, that Class 58 by Dapol is running across that join there as if there wasn't a join, and that is quite an achievement. I'm really proud of that. Just watch again, because I think it's brilliant. Look. Oh. See, case in point again. It cut out then. I thought that it was the connectors because I touched them, but it turns out I wasn't just, well, it turns out that it was that a little bit, but also I wasn't giving the controller enough power. We have to bear in mind that at the moment it's all DC. So unlike DCC, where you've got a constant 12 or 16 volts or something flooding through the track continuously, with DC you only have as much as you turn onto the track. sometimes that can be as low as 2 or 3 volts, sometimes it can go up to 12 or whatever. But if it's just 2 or 3 volts, that might not be enough to get the motor going past its, past the point of resistance and get the actual locomotive moving. However, I think it will be fine again now. Let's just see. Yep, wrong way. Yeah, it doesn't matter whether I go fast or slow now, it seems to be running perfectly. Just look at that. Oh. Now that is excellent. Because that's DC. That's a Dapol N-gauge locomotive in DC going over what is, in model railway terms, a Grand Canyon of a gap. That is a huge gap there. It's about 2 or 3 mil. But it's rolling over it brilliantly. Yeah, that's pretty good. Anyway, so basically this is the best we can do with the restrictions we're operating in, and we're now going to show you how to do this on the other side. Okay, so we're back and Craig joins me this time.
Hello.
It just occurred to us that we haven't actually tested the other loop, the other road. I don't know why they call them roads. They're tracks, but they are called roads for some silly reason. So I don't know why, but it does need testing. So the Class 58 has been lifted off one track and put onto the other. So let's give it a go. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. That was so smooth, and this is a cracking little model as well. Really, really nice. So if you just reverse direction and go back, yeah, that's really good. I think it's safe to say that the connectors at this end of the bridge are doing a good enough job. Not bad at all. So we now need to zoom over here to the other side and get this done just as well.
Okay, so I've taken over camera duties now from Will, and as he explained, I'm going to try and talk you through how I wired up the other end by doing this one the same. So what we're going to need is some of these. Okay, so if I'm using 9 of these metal contacts at each end, then as you can see on the packet it says there are 12 in a pack. So technically you're going to need 2 packets to do both ends of the bridge, but that also means that you've got a few left over to do a little bit of experimentation, and you can afford to throw a few away if any of them go wrong. Because what you then have to do with them, or at least 6 of them, is bend them like this. So you can see I've basically taken some pliers and bent over the entire pointed end so that it gives me something to actually push into the balsa wood, and with it only being balsa it's nice and soft, and you can push that straight in, but it also fixes it firmly at both sides, one side with the screw and one side with the point. The pack also comes with all these little screws. Don't know if it can focus. Now those little screws are just about enough to actually screw it and hold it into the balsa, but as you can see the actual screw thread goes right the way up to the head of the screw, and so I wasn't really happy with that in case the constant twisting of the rotating plate interfered with the actual screw thread. So I also got hold of some of these, so very similar, about the same length, but if you can just see up near the head of the screw there's actually a plain bit of the shank that allows it to rotate around that point in the screw without actually interfering with the screw thread below.
And isn't it one of those that you've just recently used to correct the track height, the rail height?
Actually I used the other one, so I made use of these little ones to actually screw some of the track in.
I'll just show people where I mean.
So just here in the middle of this left hand track, it was still sort of lifting up a little bit and wasn't quite level with the track on the bridge, so I've made use of one of these little screws, as you can see, in the middle to just hold it down in place, so we've got it perfectly level.
Yeah, it's done a cracking job.
Yeah,
really good.
I've also made use of these little ones, the ones that came in the pack, on these contacts here, because these ones aren't actually rotating or moving, I was able to make use of those there just to hold those plates in place and to also actually pinch the contact onto the wire rather than having to solder it on this side, because again this joint isn't moving at all. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is take our little brass picture hook holders and bend them as I've shown. So all I do for that is take a small pair of pliers, grip it firmly just above where this little dimple is, and then with my hand on the other side, a little bit of pressure is enough to bend it over. So they'll bend quite easily by hand, but you're looking for it to go at a right angle like that.
Gosh, wow. So what happens to the bit you've bent down?
So the bit that I've bent down then provides us a nice little point to push straight into the balsa wood and fix it into place. So I'll just make 5 more of those and then show you what I do with them.
Okay. Well, whilst Craig is just doing that, I just wanted to show you these. Again, it's not more product placement, trust me, but these are the Unibond removable strips that I showed you in a video, either a video or 2 ago. I can't remember how many videos ago it was, but basically these are the really powerful strips that are fantastic for holding cables out of the way and stuff. Now the ones I used last time were red. They were super powerful, and so powerful that, trust me, when something touches those red ones, it is not coming off again. But these are apparently, these are like the next most powerful that they do. It does say that these are removable. They're not completely permanent, but they're still apparently strong enough to hold picture frames on the wall and stuff. Apparently, I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I'm not going to test it, but they should certainly be more than capable enough of supporting our cables up over the track and keeping them out of the way. So if you can remember those little white cable holders that I used and I showed you behind the desk, I'm basically going to cut these to size, affix them to the backs of those cable clips, and then lift the cables up out of the way. People did suggest to me using things like model pylons and using a toilet roll and bits of Lego and stuff like that, but I just think that using these and those plastic cable tie clip things is going to be neat, and it should do the job perfectly well. If it doesn't, then I'll look into something else, but these should do it. So I'll put them to one side, start cutting them to the correct size, and then I will hand you back over to Craig.
Okay, so now that I've got all of my bent little sections, I now need to work out where they're going to go. So I use one of the unbent pins and place it over the join in the track to make sure that there's enough overlapping to actually rest on the contact on this side, while still being far enough in on this side that the screw isn't going to force the wood outwards. And so when I'm happy with where it's placed, I then actually use a cocktail stick, because that's enough to actually go into the balsa wood like that, and mark my hole. And then what I found was that it was quite useful to actually then place the balsa wood, place the cocktail stick back through the hole of the plate that I'm going to push in, so that it stops it from moving too far forwards or back. And then I basically apply pressure just with my hands on the pointed section that I've bent down, and that is enough to actually force it into the balsa wood so that it's flat on the surface. Okay. So same again in the middle, choose where I want it to be, make sure there's enough overlap, use a cocktail stick to mark the centre of the hole, take one of the bent sections and thread the cocktail stick through, and then put it into the hole I've made and just force it into the wood. Okay, and then I do exactly the same as well on the bridge section. but this time I just need to make sure that the exposed part of the plate is as close to the edge of the bridge as possible, so that I can swing the other clip over and it'll make contact. So I line that one up by hand, leave a little bit of gap from the edge so that it doesn't completely break the wood. Sorry if my arms are in the way, but I need both hands for this. And push it in. Okay, and so if I just zoom in a little bit, you can see how those two pieces are now firmly forced into the balsa wood using the point, and then I can also use some screws afterwards to secure them into place on the other side as well.
Okay, well again, whilst Craig is back over there doing stuff with the contacts and the bridge, I have taken some of these yellow pads, not red ones, and I've cut them up to sort of about the right shape and size to go onto the back of these little cable tie things. They're really, really useful. I don't know where they came from, but they're fantastic little ties. Where did they come from, Craig? Can you remember? It says Richco.
I think they were ordered online from a company called CPC.
Right. So we've had them quite a while then. Okay, anyway, yeah, so preparing those just to the sort of right shape and size results in something like that, as you can see. I hope you can see okay. And then basically you just grab like a little knife and then just peel that little yellow bit off, and they're good to go. But be careful where you put them then, because the minute it touches something, it's like it becomes active, it's ready to stick, and it doesn't half stick, trust me. Even though these are the yellow ones and not the red ones, they're still really, really sticky. I've honed the camcorder in on the edge of my monitor here. All this is going to move eventually. I'm definitely going to get a second monitor. I need a second monitor. IC82HQ needs a second monitor. I need to increase productivity, and I need another screen. But for now, we've got the cable here for my gaming mouse. There's the cable, obviously, there's two cables going into the back of the monitor. There's the power and the DVI cable, and then there's the keyboard cable as well. They're gaming mice and gaming keyboards, so that's why there's wires. You can't beat wires, trust me. Loads and loads of people have said, just go wireless, but that is not an option, okay? Any hardcore gamer, you know, go ask NerdCubed, he'll tell you the same thing. You've got to have wired devices, that's the best way to go. So I'm going to take this off, affix it to the blue wall over there, and then hoist the cables up out of the way, well clear of the track.
Okay, so as you can see, I've now got all 6 of the contacts in, 3 on the bridge side, 3 on the desk side, and I've started to screw the bridge side ones into place as well, using the small little brass screws. Is it going to focus? Just about, but those small little brass screws that actually came in the pack in the first place. Now, the important thing to remember when I'm screwing these into the balsa wood is that balsa is quite weak, and so if you over screw and over tighten, it'll very quickly destroy the wood inside, and the whole screw will just keep spinning and spinning and spinning. So all you need to do is tighten it just so it actually puts a little bit of pressure on the plate and it holds it firmly into place. For the other side, as I said before, I'm using these other screws. Let's just have a slight solid section at the top near the head of the screw around which the brass plate is going to be able to spin. So I use those, place one of the flat unbent sections over the hole, and then carefully, again being careful not to over tighten, screw that into place. Just getting a little bit of resistance there, so I'll stop, and then I can test that by moving it onto the contact. Okay, now it's a little bit stiff, it's a little bit tight, So I'm actually just going to put a little bit of pressure on to raise it up a little. There we go, that's much better. So I've bent it ever so slightly upwards just to accommodate the plate, but that's now a nice snug fit without being so tight that it's putting a little bit too much pressure on. If you can hear the wind in the background, that's because Will is busy using compressed air to dust around the back of the track.
Yeah, sorry.
It's not a tornado, it's alright.
Just prepping the surface.
Okay, so I'll do another one in the middle there. So I just line up the hole. Use my special screws to tighten it up. And then when I feel a little bit of pressure, just so I know they're making contact, I'll stop. And again, that one's a little bit tight, so I'll just bend it up. And these little brass plates are thin enough that they're quite easy to bend with your hand. Don't need a lot of force. But there you go. That now rotates onto that one. So I'll just do the third one and make sure they're all done, and then we'll have a look at actually wiring it to the track.